I had been working as a park ranger at Cedar Hollow State Preserve for almost 3 years when this happened. Most people imagine park ranger work as hiking trails, helping lost tourists, and watching wildlife. During the day, that was true. Night shifts were different. Cedar Hollow sat nearly 30 miles away from the nearest town. Once the visitors left, the entire place became a world of silence, distant coyotes, and endless darkness. My name is Leah Carter. I was 28 then, recently engaged to my boyfriend Ryan, and trying to save money before our wedding. I had transferred from another part because the pay was slightly better, even though everyone warned me that overnight duty wasn't for everyone. Usually I worked alone. Around midnight, I'd drive through the campgrounds, lock the gates, check the restrooms, and spend the remaining hours inside the ranger station watching security monitors and filling out reports. Nothing exciting ever happened. Until October 17th. It was a Thursday. Cold rain had started around sunset, and by 11:45 p.m., nearly every campsite was empty. I was finishing paperwork while drinking bad coffee from the vending machine. At 1:10 a.m., my radio crackled. Station 4, this is dispatch. Leah here. One of the cameras near Pine Ridge Trail is offline again. I sighed. Probably another squirrel chewing wires. Dispatch laughed. Probably. Maintenance said someone would come tonight. Tonight? At 1 in the morning? Yeah. Supervisor Reed arranged it. I wasn't thrilled. Nobody likes strangers showing up during night shift. Still, I trusted Reed. He had been managing Cedar Hollow for almost 15 years. At 1:50 a.m., headlights appeared through the rain. A white pickup rolled slowly into the parking lot. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. A tall man climbed out. Late 30s, skinny, baseball cap, thick beard. Evening, he said. You the maintenance guy? Name's Owen. He held up a toolbox. Supervisor Reed called me. I nodded. Camera problem? Nah. Generator room. Something keeps cutting power. His voice sounded normal enough. I unlocked the station and radioed dispatch. Maintenance arrived. Copy. Everything seemed fine. Still, something bothered me. Maybe because I hadn't expected anyone this late. Maybe because his eyes never stayed in one place. They kept scanning the room, he noticed. Nervous around strangers? He smiled. I laughed awkwardly. Occupational hazard. Smart. He headed downstairs to the generator room. I returned to my desk. 20 minutes passed. 30. Then 40. At 2:40 a.m., he came upstairs carrying pliers. Still working? I asked. Complicated issue. He smiled. But hey, you're keeping me company. I forced a laugh. My fiancé probably thinks I disappeared. Fiancé, huh? Something about the way he said it made me uncomfortable. Yeah, Ryan. Must be nice. His eyes lingered too long. Then he smiled again. You shouldn't work alone. I shrugged. It's part of the job. No, he said quietly. I mean, women shouldn't work alone out here. The tone changed. Not angry, not joking. Just strange. I suddenly wanted him gone. Trying to stay polite, I texted Supervisor Reed. Can you ask the maintenance guy to come back tomorrow? It's getting late. A minute later, my phone buzzed. I smiled in relief, until I opened the message. Then my stomach dropped. Reed, what maintenance guy? I stared. My fingers froze. Another message appeared. Reed, Leah, I never called anyone. Maintenance isn't scheduled until next week. Who is there? Cold spread through my entire body. Across the room, Owen stood by the coffee machine, watching me, smiling. Boyfriend texting? He asked casually. My heart nearly stopped. I quickly typed, call 911 now. Reed immediately went offline. Good. He understood. I forced myself to smile. My fiancé, he's worried. That's sweet. He turned toward the window. Rain tapped against the glass. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You know, Leah, I used to come here before. What? A couple years ago. I don't remember. He chuckled. Not you. He tapped his chest. I dated Reed's daughter. I blinked. What? We were together 4 years. His smile faded. She left me. Suddenly I remembered. Supervisor Reed had once mentioned his daughter Emily had moved across the country after a nasty breakup. restraining order, stalking, harassment. I had barely paid attention back then. My mouth went dry. Emily? His eyes lit up. Yeah. He smiled like a kid talking about Christmas. I still love her. I slowly stood up. Owen, maybe you should. My name isn't Owen. He smiled wider. It's Nathan. He picked up a pair of wire cutters. Not threatening, just holding them. Then he stared at me. Funny thing, Leah. His left eye twitched slightly. Reed thinks I ruined her life. Silence. Rain. My own heartbeat. I just wanted to talk. Then, snap. Nathan suddenly looked confused. He had accidentally clipped the tip of his finger. Blood dripped immediately. I gasped. Oh my God, but he didn't. He simply stared at the missing piece. Then laughed softly. Actually laughed. And I felt something inside me sink. Because nobody reacts like that. Nobody. He placed the bleeding finger inside his mouth and looked directly into my eyes. His smile was gone now. Only his eyes remained. And they looked completely empty. I think someone called the police, he said quietly. My entire body froze. How did he know? He pulled the finger from his mouth. Blood covered his lips. Then, red and blue lights flashed through the rain outside. Nathan looked toward the parking lot. He sighed. Guess I should go. He walked toward the door. Stopped. Looked back at me one last time. If Emily asks, he smiled sadly, tell her I never stopped loving her, and then he disappeared into the storm. Minutes later, 3 deputies and Supervisor Reed burst inside. I couldn't even speak. They found blood drops, the severed fingertip, and the broken generator wires. Reed turned pale after hearing everything. Nathan Mercer, he whispered. He violated the restraining order again. Police searched all night. They found his abandoned truck 6 miles away, but they never found him. 3 months later, I transferred to another park. I still work as a ranger. I still love the job, but I never work alone anymore. Because some people aren't dangerous because they're angry. They're dangerous because they convince themselves that obsession is love. And obsession can make ordinary people terrifying. Always verify unexpected workers or visitors independently, especially during late-night shifts. Trusting your instincts, maintaining communication, and sharing your location with others can save your life. Sometimes being cautious isn't paranoia, it's preparation. I had always preferred quiet jobs. Crowded places never appealed to me. Even when I was younger, I liked being by myself. Maybe that's why becoming a park ranger felt natural. My name is Mason Reed, and for 3 years I worked at Cedar Ridge State Park, a remote place in western Montana surrounded by forests, rocky trails, and lakes that look beautiful during the day and unsettling after sunset. Most visitors thought my job was exciting. They imagined bears, rescues, and scenic views. In reality, it was mostly paperwork, repairing signs, helping lost tourists, and occasionally dealing with drunk campers. Still, I loved it. After my divorce in 2018, I needed something quiet. My ex-wife Laura had moved back to Seattle, and my 12-year-old daughter Emma lived with her. We talked every weekend, but living alone wasn't easy. The park became my escape. By late October, the tourist season was nearly over. Most campgrounds had closed, and only a handful of RV sites remained open. Friday nights were usually peaceful. That particular Friday had started normally. Around 6 in the evening, I checked permits, cleared fallen branches from Trail 7, and helped an elderly couple whose car battery had died. By 8 o'clock, the rain started. Not the usual rain. The kind that made the sky look angry. Heavy drops pounded the roof of the visitor center while thunder echoed through the hills. I made myself coffee and sat behind the front desk. Dispatch radio crackled. Unit 3, status check. Everything's clear, I answered. You heading home soon? As soon as I finish paperwork. Storm warning's getting worse. Roads might flood. Copy that. I glanced outside. Nothing but darkness and rain. Perfect weather to be home. Around 9:30, I was locking display cases and preparing to leave when somebody slammed against the glass entrance. Bang, I nearly spilled my coffee. A man stood outside, maybe 35 years old. brown jacket, baseball cap, completely soaked. His beard dripped water onto his shirt. He waved desperately. "Please." I walked toward the door cautiously. "We're closed." "I know," he shouted through the glass. "I'm sorry." "Please, man." I left my truck keys inside. He looked exhausted, cold. His breathing seemed heavy. I cracked the door open. "You sure they're here? My son and I came by around 4. I must have dropped them." I looked past him. No truck. No headlights. Just darkness. "Where's your son?" My wife picked him up. "Please, I live 40 miles away." Lightning flashed behind him. Maybe I should have told him no. But people forgot things all the time. And honestly, he looked miserable. 2 minutes, I said. "That's all." He smiled. "Thank you." The second he stepped inside, something felt wrong. Not because he acted aggressive, because he wasn't looking for keys. He looked up, at the cameras, then at the exits, then at me. His eyes lingered for a second too long. "You remember where you sat?" I asked. "Near those maps." He pointed casually, but he wasn't moving. I noticed his hands. No car keys. No wallet. Nothing. He simply stood there. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah." He smiled. "My name's Nathan. Mason. Quiet place. Usually." "You work alone?" I laughed nervously. "Not always." A lie. His smile widened slightly. "Really?" Thunder rattled the windows. Something twisted in my stomach. Years earlier, during security training, one instructor had said something I never forgot. "If your gut says something's wrong, listen." I slowly reached for my radio. Nathan noticed immediately. "You don't need that." His voice changed. No longer nervous. Calm. Almost amused. "What?" "The radio." I stopped. He chuckled softly. "I'm not dangerous." Then he pointed behind me. "Maybe my keys are over there." I nodded, but I wasn't buying it. I casually stepped toward the office. My partner should be back any minute. His expression changed. "You know what's funny?" he asked quietly. "People lie when they're scared." I froze. He reached into his pocket and tossed something onto the desk. My phone. I stared at it. "Where did you? You left the front unlocked." He smiled. "I came in earlier while you were in the storage room." My blood turned cold. He'd already been inside, watching me, listening, maybe for several minutes, maybe longer. "Relax, Mason," he said. "We're just talking." My hand slowly reached for the radio again. He saw it. Fast, too fast, too fast. He grabbed the radio and smashed it against the counter. Plastic pieces scattered everywhere. My heart began pounding. "What the hell are you doing?" Nathan laughed. "I hate radios." He looked around the room. "You know why I like parks?" I didn't answer. "They're quiet." He smiled. "And quiet places are perfect." "Perfect for what?" Before I could speak, lightning flashed outside, and suddenly, the power died. Everything went black. Emergency lights switched on, casting a dim orange glow across the visitor center. Nathan stood motionless, smiling. Then he whispered, "Now it's interesting." My instincts screamed, "Run." I turned and headed for the office. But the rear door wouldn't open. I pulled harder. Locked. From outside. From outside, my stomach dropped. Impossible. Nobody locked it from outside, unless he had done it earlier. Planned everything. I slowly turned. Nathan stood 10 feet away, holding my flashlight. "Looking for this?" He tossed it onto a shelf. "I'm not here to kill you, Mason." His voice remained calm. "I just want to talk." "You're sick," he laughed. "Maybe." I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall. "Stay back." He raised both hands. "Relax." Then he suddenly rushed forward. I swung. The extinguisher struck his shoulder. He stumbled. Not badly, but enough. I ran. Past the exhibits. Into the maintenance hallway. My boots slipped on wet tile. Behind me, his footsteps echoed. Not running. Walking. Slow. Almost casual. "You're making this harder, Mason." His voice echoed through the hallway. "You don't even know me." I locked myself inside the supply room. My hands shook violently. Think. No radio. Phone gone. Storm outside. Nobody nearby. I held my breath. Silence. Then, 3 knocks. Tap. 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 Mason, his voice sounded friendly. Too friendly. We can talk. I stayed quiet. Another knock. I know you're in there. Then silence. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Nothing. Maybe he left. Maybe. The doorknob slowly turned. My heart nearly stopped. And I realized the lock on the supply room door had been broken for months. Never ignore your instincts. If someone behaves strangely, maintain distance, avoid being alone, and contact authorities immediately. Simple safety procedures exist for a reason, and trusting your gut can save your life. I used to think the quiet nights were the safest part of being a park ranger. I was wrong. My name is Ethan Mercer, and in the summer of 2022, I worked as a seasonal ranger at Blackwater Ridge State Park in Oregon. It wasn't some isolated horror movie location. It was a normal state park with hiking trails, campsites, fishing areas, and a small visitor center where we sold maps, snacks, and coffee. I had been working there for about 8 months. Most of the job involved helping lost hikers, dealing with noisy campers, cleaning bathrooms, and occasionally rescuing people who underestimated the mountain weather. I actually loved it. My fiancée, Lily, used to joke that I loved the woods more than civilization. "Just don't marry a tree while I'm gone," she'd tease over the phone. I always laughed. "I'll do my best." That October, she was visiting her sister in California, and I was covering extra evening shifts because one of our rangers had injured his knee. Honestly, those late shifts were peaceful, or at least they had been. That Friday evening, rain started falling around 6. By 8, most visitors had packed up and gone home. The parking lot was almost empty. Only 2 campers remained at Site 12. Inside the visitor center, I was updating reports when the front door opened. A woman stepped inside, shaking rain off her jacket. She looked around 35, with short brown hair and a tired face. "Oh, thank God," she said. "I thought this place closed." "We close at 9, I replied. She smiled. Perfect timing. I made some coffee and handed her a paper cup, no charge. "Miserable weather deserves free coffee," she laughed. "You sure?" "Yeah, I'm Claire, Ethan." She sat at one of the tables while I worked. At first, the conversation was normal. She said she was traveling alone and had stopped because the storm was getting bad. We talked about hiking, wildlife, and stupid things tourists did. She seemed lonely more than anything. When she saw my engagement ring, she smiled. "Married? Not yet. Lucky girl. She's lucky if she can tolerate me." Claire laughed. The next hour passed normally. Then she asked, "So, what kind of women do you usually like?" I chuckled. "Well, Lily, apparently." "No, seriously, I don't know. Tall? Short? Blonde?" I shrugged. "I've already got somebody." Her smile faded. "Oh," I noticed the change immediately. "Sorry if that's awkward." No, it's fine." But it wasn't. She became quiet. At 9 p.m., I locked the visitor center. "Road should be clear in an hour," I told her. She nodded. "Could I use the restroom first?" "Sure." I continued shutting everything down. 10 minutes later, she hadn't come out. I knocked. "You okay?" "Yeah." Another minute passed. Then she emerged. Her eyes looked red, like she'd been crying. "Everything all right?" I asked. She suddenly hugged me. Hard. I froze, and now Bryce. "Claire, you know," she whispered, "I thought maybe this meant something." "What?" "The coffee." Talking. "You made me feel seen." I stepped back immediately. "Claire, I'm sorry if I gave the wrong impression." She stared. "You really have somebody?" "Yeah." "You're serious?" "Very." Something changed in her face. Not anger. Hurt. Deep hurt. "You shouldn't flirt with lonely people." I wasn't flirting. "Yes, you were." "No, I was being nice." Her eyes filled with tears. Then she grabbed the coffee mug from the counter and threw it. It missed my head and exploded against the wall. "What the hell? I thought you liked me." "Claire, stop. I thought this meant something." I reached for my radio. "Relax. Just calm down." She stormed outside. I figured she'd leave. Instead, she sat inside her SUV in the parking lot for almost 20 minutes. I watched through the window. Eventually, she drove away. Or so I thought. Around 10, I finished paperwork and headed toward the ranger cabin behind the visitor center. Halfway there, I noticed something. Her SUV, parked behind the maintenance shed, no headlights, no engine, just sitting there. My stomach sank. I radioed Ranger Mike. No answer. He was 20 miles away. I approached carefully. The vehicle was empty. "Claire?" I called. Nothing. Rain hammered the trees. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Whack. Something hit the back of my head. Not hard enough to knock me out completely. I fell face first into the mud. My radio skidded away. I rolled over and saw Claire standing there, holding a flashlight. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm sorry. Claire, are you insane? You were leaving? What? You were going to leave me." I scrambled backward. "You're scaring me." "I know," she cried harder. "I don't want to be alone anymore." She suddenly hugged me again. I shoved her away. "Stay away from me," she screamed. "You lied to me." And she ran. Actually ran into the woods. I sat there, stunned. Who runs into the woods at night during a storm? I called county dispatch. Deputies arrived 30 minutes later. They searched. Nothing. No Claire. No SUV. No SUV. Gone. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. 3 days later, Ranger Mike looked at me strangely. "Buddy, you got a girlfriend visiting?" "No." "Then who's the woman asking about you?" "What?" Brown hair, gray jacket, cold swept through me. Mike frowned. "Know her?" I immediately called the sheriff. Deputies searched again. Nothing. For 2 weeks, everything was quiet. Then Lily came home. I told her everything. She listened quietly. "You should have told me sooner. I didn't want to worry you. Ethan, some people become obsessed. It happens. Life returned to normal." Or so I thought. One rainy night, Lily and I were watching television when someone knocked. 3 times. Knock. 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 It was almost midnight. I opened the blinds. Nobody. But sitting on our porch was a gift basket. Coffee, cookies, and a note. "I forgive you. I forgive you." Lily looked terrified. I called 911 immediately. Police dusted everything. No fingerprints. Nothing. Months passed. Then one afternoon, I got a call from Detective Ramirez. We found her. Apparently, Claire's real name wasn't Claire. It was Monica Reeves. She had a history of stalking and untreated mental illness. Several incidents in different states. Nobody had been seriously hurt before. She'd become emotionally attached to strangers, then convinced herself they were secretly in love. She had been arrested after breaking into another man's apartment 2 states away. Hearing that should have made me feel better. Instead, it made me sad, because when I thought back, I remembered her crying. Not laughing, not smiling like some monster. Crying, completely convinced of something that never existed. Years later, I still work in parks. I still help strangers. But I learned something important. Being kind doesn't mean you owe people emotional intimacy. And loneliness, when mixed with untreated mental illness, can become dangerous for everyone involved. Sometimes people aren't evil. Sometimes they're broken in ways they don't understand. And if someone makes you uncomfortable, trust that feeling. Set boundaries. Tell others. And never ignore behavior that feels wrong simply because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Because safety matters. And so does getting people help before things spiral into tragedy. Always maintain healthy boundaries with strangers. Report threatening behavior immediately. And encourage people struggling with mental health issues to seek professional help. Being compassionate and being cautious can exist together.